It's the happiest season of all, yeah. With those holiday greetings and gay happy meetings when friends come to call. It's the happiest season of all. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting and caroling out in the snow. There'll be scary ghost stories of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time. Yes, it's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa.
How are you today?
Awesome.
Good. Everybody's awesome today. Oh, wow. Usually it's like, oh, good, great, fabulous. But no, today we are all awesome.
Best day ever.
It is the best day ever. How did you know that, Vance? Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I dig it. I should use that. No. I really love today, not just because it's the best day ever, but because we really do have these 3 holidays that are coinciding at the same time. So one of the benefits of being a center for spiritual living is that we get to celebrate all of the holidays. We get all of them. So it's extra cool for us. Not only do we get Christmas, but we get Hanukkah, we also get Kwanzaa. And each and every one of us get to embody all of those things that each one of those holidays represent. So this month, we're studying the global vision, the living spirit. We see our communities as points of universal peace, love, and power. We see our communities as points of universal peace, love, and power. Now, in order for us to embrace that, because it's cool to say our communities, but really, what does our community mean? What makes a community? We need people to make a community. And it's not the community itself that creates this peace, love, and power. It's the people who create the peace, love, and power. It's the connections that we make. It's the individualized expressions, the connections that we have individually with each other one-on-one that make the community great. And each one of us have an opportunity to be stepping into our fullness, stepping into our greatness, or not. Each choice. Is this choice me stepping into my fullness and my greatness? Or is this choice me not? I've had that experience this week. I don't know about you guys, but family is sometimes challenging. Just sometimes. Just sometimes. And you know how they can poke the buttons that are those buttons? And then all of a sudden you're tired and you haven't had your coffee and you really want to be in the Christmas spirit, but all of a sudden you say that thing that's not so kind, right? And each and every one of us has the opportunity to be stepping into that or not. So I admit, sometimes I choose not to, but recently this week I did a really good job stepping into the idea of being peaceful. Stepping into the idea of when that person is pushing my button to take a deep breath and a step back and to center myself. Because I know that everything is a call for love or a call to love. So when that family member is being not so kind, saying the thing that's maybe inappropriate to be saying, or talking in a way that isn't kind to me, it gives me an opportunity to step into that person being the kindness of the world. As a matter of fact, this time of year is the time of year that gives us the most opportunity to step into that place of uncomfortability, right? Whenever all of that kind of messiness is happening. So I love the story of Hanukkah. 2,100 years ago in the land of Israel, it came under the rule of the Syrian Greek emperor Antiochus. And what he did is he issued a series of decrees designed to force his Hellenistic ideology and rituals upon the Jewish people. Which sounds like, okay, whatever. But really he outlawed the study of the Torah and the observance of its commands, and he defiled the holy temple in Jerusalem with Greek idols. Now, as I say that, that doesn't seem so, offensive, like, oh, okay, he did this thing. But what if our president decided to outlaw any books or technology that have any spiritual relevance? No more Wayne Dyer, no more Oprah, no more Michael Beckwith, no YouTube videos of Center for Spiritual Living, right? None of those things. No Neil Donald Walsh.
No Abigail?
No me. But then, it wasn't just that. It would be like, then the president decides to find all the churches and the temples and all the spiritual centers and take down all of our chakra people and all our Buddhas and, all of our holiday trees, and instead replacing it with figures from the Church of Euthanasia. Which, by the way, is a real church. I looked up some really radical churches just to, have a good example. Their theory is save the planet and kill yourself. They're a real church. So what if all of our spiritual symbols and icons and things that we look to as reminders to get us reconnected were replaced by the Church of Euthanasia? Do you think it'd make you a little upset? You think you'd be like, there's a little stirring going on of like, this isn't right. This isn't fair. I really want to connect to my spiritual self. I want to connect to my God. I want to connect to that aspect of the universe that holds me into being a loving and kind person. But this is unacceptable. And so the Jews, who were vastly outnumbered, they actually waged battle against the Greek armies, and they ended up driving them out of the land. And they went to their holy temple, and they wanted to light the temple's menorah. And unfortunately, they discovered that the Greeks had contaminated all the oil. And it was just very symbolic for them, because it's like, I got my God back. So they went ahead and they had enough oil to last one night to light their candelabra, their menorah. And they knew it would take 8 days to procure new oil. They would send somebody off to go get some more oil. But they went ahead and lit this menorah. And the interesting thing is after the first night it was still lit. And the second night it was still lit. And the third night, it was still lit. And it seemed like, how is this possible? How could this be? This is beyond my realm of what I know is possible. And yet, that menorah stayed lit for 8 days until they could get the new oil. Now, we've been talking about miracles a lot this month. And miracles happen every day. But sometimes we forget. How many of you have had a miracle in your life? How many? Right? And how often do you forget that you actually had a miracle happen in your life? Like a miracle. Yeah. How often? And yet we walk every day, we're just like, oh, it's an okay day, it's all right. And you had a miracle happen. Yeah. I had a lump in my breast one time. And I went to the doctor, and their doctor said, yep, definitely a lump. So we're going to have you go in for a mammogram. And I went in and I got all my friends to pray for me because I was like, oh my God, it was like 7 years ago. I'm pretty young for that. And when I went in for the mammogram, it was gone. It's a miracle. And I know that that same operation of the divine is working on my life every day. And it's working in your life every day as well. But we just have to remember that miracles are possible. So when we lose faith, because it happens, how many of you have lost faith? Okay, I'm not the only one. I know I'm a minister, but it happens. When we lose faith, what can we do to get that reminder that miracles happen every day? And what if you just decided to have faith again? I'm watching all of the Star Wars series from the very beginning. So I love Yoda. And Yoda says, do or not do, there is no try. Don't try to have faith. Just get your faith back again. Choose to have it again. What harm would it do? How would you be operating if you decided that this world was a loving world and it wasn't out to get you? How would you be operating if you chose to enjoy every moment of life? Oh, he's so adorable. I'm sorry. So I wonder if you could have faith and not give up before miracles happen in your life. Maybe you're experiencing one of those times where it's a little bit challenging or a little bit difficult. I notice it happens a lot at this time of year. It's very, very challenging and difficult. But what if you chose to have faith and to not give up and recognize that there's a God that is operating for your highest good? It is conspiring for your greatest good. As a matter of fact, it's not just operating, it is conspiring for your greatest good. And whatever is happening because it is your greatest good unfolding. And maybe you don't see it now, but you will. You will see it. There's this Chinese bamboo, and it grows. Oh, hi, thank you. Oh, thank you. This is an elephant, everybody. Elephant. They hang out with bamboo. They like to hang out with bamboo. Here you go. Thanks. And the bamboo, the Chinese bamboo, it grows an inch every year for the first 4 years. And then on the 5th year, it grows 100 feet. 100 feet, yeah. Now that's what's going on in our life. Now maybe you're saying prayers, maybe you're doing your gratitudes, maybe you're doing your spiritual practices and you're working the principles and things just aren't working in your life. Well, I want to encourage you to not give up before the miracle. I want to encourage you to be open. My practitioner says it's like you're putting spiritual coin in the bank and it's gaining interest, and then one day it cashes out to you. But you got to recognize that that prayer that you said and that affirmation that you said and that gratitude that you continue to say every day is like spiritual coin in the bank. And it adds up and it multiplies abundantly. I have a friend, her name is Reverend Sharon Dunn, and her husband was in the Vietnam War. And his job as a soldier was to carry all the body parts back to the back to the helicopters of his colleagues that had been blown up, and so that they could be recovered and the family could identify them. And in this process, he got hepatitis C. And he was doing well for a long portion of his life, and then his liver decided not to work. And it wasn't working 100%, but then while I was in ministerial school with her, his liver was getting really, really bad. He was on a list for a transplant, but the list could be years. So 2 years after I got out of ministerial school, things were looking really bad for Reverend Sharon and her husband. And he was like this close to passing. He was like that close to passing. And he got the call, your transplant is ready. And so they flew up, and even if you are on for a transplant, it doesn't mean your body's going to accept it. And you know, when a transplant is ready, it means the way they get it is that somebody had to die in order for them to get the transplant. But the beautiful thing is that he got that transplant. And I saw him like a year later, and he was completely a new man. But what if they had given up before that miracle? What if they had decided that it wasn't possible? And what about the people who lost their family member, who created the miracle for this other person? So what if all of these things that are conspiring in the universe are for your greater good? And where it looks like one thing that is the worst thing ever, it may be the life-saving thing for somebody else. Would you be willing to suffer through the challenges of your life in order to experience those miracles? Would you be willing to not only have to suffer, but maybe see those obstacles and those challenges as the catalyst to your greater good? I really love and appreciate this teaching because it gives me that idea that I'm the light in the dark spots of time. It gives me the idea that no matter what, within me there is a light. And there's a light in you. There's a light in each and every one of you. I love the fact that we have these teachings that remind us about unity and collective work and responsibility, purpose, creativity, and faith. And all of those qualities that I just described to you are qualities of Kwanzaa. So Kwanzaa is a African-American holiday. It started in 1966. Dr. Maulana Karenga, he created it. As a man, as a professor who got like 3 doctorates or something like that, and he studied African. He was an African studies professor. And so on December 26, 1966, he decided he wanted to create a holiday that honored the ideals and traditions of Africa. Those very things: unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics. By the way, when we're creating a world that works for everyone, it's about cooperative economics. Purpose, creativity, and faith. So all of those things that I've described today, the same things that we talk about when we're lighting the menorah, or we're talking about the Christmas spirit, we're all talking about the same thing. We're recognizing that there is something special that is awakened within us. It is the Christ light. And no matter if you're Jewish or if you're Christian, the Christ light is the same light that's possible for each and every one of us. In this book, the book of the month, You Are the Placebo, it's great. He has a story about how he's talking a lot about his belief systems and how they were formed. And when he was younger, he got really, really mad at some of his Jewish friends who told him that Jesus was a Jew. And he was like, no, Jesus is Italian. Because he's Italian. And he said, Grandma is always speaking Italian to him. He looks like he's Italian. And what about the Roman Empire? Isn't Rome in Italy? He's not Jewish. He had his whole concept of the world like blown apart because he thought Jesus was Jewish or Jesus was Italian his whole life. And then all of a sudden that concept got broken away. But maybe you have a concept in your life. Like maybe there's something going on in operation in your consciousness that you think something is one way when really it's some other way. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be that you're opening up to a new way of being. And the way we can discover how this greater world is working for all of us and how we can create a world that works for everyone is by connecting to those people who are different than us. Is by reaching out, finding out, what is your history? What do you like? What is your culture like? You know, in America, we have lots of subcultures going on. And it's so beautiful to learn about them. I love doing the Chinese New Year that Elliot puts on. I love finding out about each one of these traditions because it brings richness and diversity and a boldness to this sense of beingness, which is God in action, that I wouldn't have had without it. Which is why we celebrate Kwanzaa, which starts tomorrow, by the way. And Hanukkah started last night. Because we're all part of this amazing world that's God showing up as itself, in and through each and every one of us, who wanted to play with itself so much that it invented this time-space reality so we could jump into it and enjoy ourselves. So are you playing? Yeah. I know. Hello. Time to play. I have a really special gift for you today. I didn't know I was going to give it to you, but my good friend, Reverend Liz Luoma, is here, and she is the senior minister of Tahoe Truckee. And she has a little story that she wrote that I'd like to invite her up to come and speak.
Thank you, Abigail. Yes, the divine gave me this gift of rewriting 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. So this was written a couple years ago, and the divine has decided that you get to have the gift of it. Thank you, Abigail. I love Abigail. Don't you love Abigail? We are accountability partners. We met 4 years ago, and we talk to and Skype each other once a week to tell each other what we're up to. So it's a gift. So here you go. 'Twas the night before consciousness, when all through my mind not one thought was stirring. It was rather sublime. Open to the greatest good there possibly could be, I wondered, was there really a God self in me? All my feelings were also quietly asleep, while visions of great joy, my intentions to reap. Both my left brain and right brain also joined in, letting go of all thinking, we could finally begin. In the midst of this quiet arose a great shift. Inside I could feel my whole spirit lift. My inner vision opened, something was new. Yet it was still quite a mystery, and I hadn't a clue. Then in the sky of my mind there shone a great light, giving me great joy and delightful insight. Before me there was a baby, so innocent and pure. This child was God, I knew this for sure. Yet something seemed strange. There was something more, which I'd never seen or realized before. This child was me, and I knew for a fact that what I once knew as limitation and lack were simply ideas planted in my mind by others who also had simply been blind. The traits of my God self I now truly knew, as peace, love, and joy, and great freedom too. At that very moment, I released fear, worry, and doubt. I knew only gratitude inside and out. Seeing the truth that God and I are one, I now realized I was God's daughter or son. Jesus was King, here to show us the way. He taught only love and how we ought pray. To become like a child, living in trust. Releasing all our fears is always a must. For heaven is now, it's right where we live. It's not about getting, it's about what we give. Jesus the Savior was born long ago, not in a palace, but in a manger so low. The Savior is consciousness. It's in you and in me. It's in knowing the truth that we really are free. So let's open our hearts and open our minds. Let us all go within, where each will find the gift of pure love, expansive and free. It's the gift of God's love, living as you and as me. Embrace the Christ child that you truly are. It's the gift of embrace the Christ child that you truly are, knowing in the darkest of times there's a bright shining star. Look to this truth star shining and bright. Know your divinity and your holy birthright. May we all live today as pure Christ consciousness, living as God's love. We all are truly blessed.
Thank you. See, that's what I love about what we're all about. It's having fun, it's collaboration, it's co-creation, and it's truly embracing the Christ spirit. Because Jesus, who was an amazing man, we teach was a man who embodied the Christ. His last name wasn't the Christ, Jesus Christ. He was Jesus of Nazareth. And at that time they had, people had their hometown, like where their family reside, was like their last name, Jesus of Nazareth. And although he was born in Bethlehem, it's where your family resided. And so each and every one of us have an opportunity to be connected to that Christ spirit. He was a man who embodied the Christ spirit. And he said, all these things ye shall do as well. And he said that because he was saying, I'm not the great exception. I am just showing you what you can do. And he was a man, a messenger of love, a messenger of peace in the darkness. While he was out hanging out with what they called the lepers at the time, today he'd be hanging out with the people who had AIDS, anybody who is maybe marginalized. And by the way, he probably was, he was Middle Eastern. He was a Middle Eastern man, so he wasn't a white guy. And he was the person who might be hanging out with the lesbians and the gays and the bisexuals and the transgender community. He'd be hanging out there. He'd be hanging out with the Black Lives Matter community. He'd be hanging out with the people who want to feel safe by having a safety pin on them, by our Muslim sisters and brothers who are wearing hijabs. That's what Jesus would be doing. He'd be hanging out with all of them. Because all he did was promote that we are the light of love in this world. And each and every one of us can embody that Christ spirit. So I want to invite you today to think about, what are you going to do to consciously bring the Christ into your life today? There's so many other communities around the world that are celebrating this divine light. And we know where there's a group consciousness feeling going on, there is power behind it. You can capitalize on that power today and find out, what am I going to do to bring the Christ light into the world? What can I choose to do in order to get my faith back? How can I see miracles every day? And how can I be sure that what's going on in my life is actually God conspiring for my greatest good? So I want you to think about those as you go into this week and you go into the next year. And I want you to think about, how am I changed and transformed as a result of this decision? Because just as we open ourselves up to this Christ light, it opens us up to new possibilities, new awarenesses. Just like Dr. Joe Dispenza found out that Jesus was a Jew, and he got opened up to the fact that he wasn't Italian. But we can open up to awarenesses of greater healing, greater revealing. We can be opened up to greater ideas of possibility for our lives. There's so much potential in each and every one of us that we haven't even tapped into yet. So what if you just become an open vessel, available for the divine to feed to you that possibility that's even greater than you've ever had before? That truly we can make this world a world that works for everyone, and this year, this upcoming year, 2017, as the best year ever. Yes. Are you willing? Yes. All right. Well, let's do this then. Let's do it. We have a special...